An AI-powered soft robot can now amputate its own legs. A Daily Show host has a strong opinion about how ChatGPT 4o kind of panders to the male ego. A new model from Google goes from video to audio, and it's mind-blowing. Anthropic has launched Claude 3.5 Sonnet. Now, the next article is about sex robots. A Chinese robotics company is injecting AI into the world's oldest profession. Nvidia introduced Nematron 4, a new AI model that makes data for other AI models. There's new MIT tech that shows whole brain hemispheres in incredible 3D detail. And AI image models across the world keep generating the American smile, which is confusing the Russians. But first, let's check in on Alan's conservative countdown to AGI, and we have 75. We had an increment up. All right, stay calm, everybody. We have moved up to 75. It's been stable for about a month now, and it's because of the new Claude drop. Wow. This was not a nothing day. Claude 3.5 Sonnet, which we're going to cover later in the video. I knew it was powerful. Okay, let's see what he says here. For the first time, a large language model has breached the 65% mark on the GPQA designed to be at the level of our smartest PhDs. Wow. And the GPQA test is about perturbed data, so it's like data with lots of mistakes and outliers and stuff in it, and to see how well the model can like understand the reality of what it's learning. So for example, the kind of data that it's going to be learning from will have changes in wording or phrasing, alterations to sentence structure. So imagine adding like a bunch of noise to all kinds of data. It could be quantitative stuff, but it could also just be like adding words or phrases that don't make sense, misspelling, stuff like that. And then testing its understanding and generalization capabilities. But you can see from one of Alan's graphs that you can find over at Life Architect, you can see on the GPQA tests, Claude 3 Opus over here standing in front of GPT-4o. Wow. With this graphic moving up 10% per step, you can see just how much of a distance Claude 3 Opus went. And then with 3.5 Sonnet, all the way to 67.2? What? Surpassing PhD domain experts. Now, it seems like Dr. Allen is estimating GP5 in the 70s. Wow, that's impressive. Leaving Gemini, Llama, Quen, all of these guys in the dust. So he links to the Claude 3.5 Sonnet model card addendum. What is this? I see, these are all the benchmarking scores. This is a great PDF. So you can see compared to GPT-4o, the other versions of Claude, and Gemini and Llama, the GPQA, the MMLU, which we've got some issues with. So this plot shows the average recall that's achieved by our models as context length grows in the needle in a haystack evaluation. Here you can see Sonnet and Opus, their two best models, way up high, even at the 200K context. So dumping in a huge corpus, a bunch of text into the, the little box there means it can keep remembering details even when there's a lot in there. These plots show a per-task human preference win rate for common use cases, expert knowledge, and adversarial scenarios. We see Claude 3.5 up here, taking the lead by far in finance, coding, law, documents, medicine, philosophy, a little bit in creative writing, a little bit in STEM, even more in honesty, instruction following. Harmlessness, it's about the same. Actually, it went down from whatever that model is, one of their older ones. And then vision instruction, but yeah, lots of improvements overall. Wow, it's always a crazy video when it actually increments up. So we are now exactly 3/4 of the way to AGI. Coming soon, man. All right, so check out this soft, squishy little thing that can amputate its own leg. In what seems like one of the more brutal demonstrations, I mean, it actually shows how versatile it is. So like, it is fascinating, but it's kind of like those videos where we're always like kicking and punching robots. And I'm just like, what are we doing? But this is a self-amputating, if it needs to, machine. It's using a thermoplastic elastomer, and researchers made a reversible joint that allows for strong attachment and easy detachment without disturbing the soft robotic module. I mean, are we gonna make robots like this just like walking down the street and people will be like, who owns that thing or what's it doing? And we're just not sure. Is that the world we're building? So when it gets stuck, it easily disconnects its leg by heating up the adhesive joint. And look, there it goes. Just left its leg right over there. Look, these people think of everything. It's so incredible. People are incredibly cool. But why? Don't worry about it, Nazfahim. The GPT-4o demo got criticized for being a little ego-inflating to men by The Daily Show. Here's what Desi Lydic had to say about it.
OpenAI introduced a new version of ChatGPT called Omni that can see and talk with you in a human way. And by human, I mean friendly. Very friendly.
What if I were to say that you're related to the announcement?
Me? The announcement is about me? Well, color me intrigued. You've got me on the edge of my, well, I don't really have a seat, but you get the idea.
Well, I had a seat, but it got so wet that I had to stand.
All right, I have no follow-up comments for that. You can leave those in the comment section if you have one. So what I thought was absolutely going to be the biggest news that I had to share with you turns out to be overshadowed by the 75% AGI clock and the big Claude announcement. But poor Google, I feel like every time they do something cool, like one day before them, someone does something just like that much cooler. But I will say that I hadn't even thought about building a model where you put video in without any audio, and then it makes the audio from the video. So this is not text to audio or text to video. You have to start with the video with no sound, and then it sees what's in it. The guitar or a drum or people talking, some fish, and then it generates those sound and needs to sync them. Just think of what an insane model that is to build. The tokens of video and the audio generation, they seem like they're separate models. I couldn't even imagine how you would build a multimodal space for all of that. Google has done that. And I would say that even though it's not perfect, it works so well and seems like such a hard problem to solve that we should be paying attention. Here's some examples.
This turkey looks amazing. I am so hungry.
Dude, look at that. Those characters just had their mouths moving with no sound. It was Google's new AI that chose to say that turkey looks so amazing. And it had to know that there was turkey on the screen and that people were sitting down and when to make a sound that sounded like it might be generated from that kind of animated character. What is this? That beautiful cinematic music all generated. The sound of the spaceship getting louder as the camera pans into it generated. Crazy. The shoes sound of him walking at the very beginning, which was a little bit questionable. It kind of sounded like at first it was the clomping of a shoe, and then it turned into the kind of rustling of the way you would walk on a bunch of leaves or something. I wish it would have just picked one sound and kept with it, but it still knew that there were shoes, and the eerie vibe was persistent. It did seem like it was kind of animating from multiple angles, so that's impressive in itself. This one aesthetically isn't my choice. Like, I feel like I picked kind of the wrong music, but I guess that is a vibe. It had a futuristic vibe, and it recognized the car skidding, the tire sounds that should be there when someone makes a turn, and it almost got the timing right. It's impressive that this thing didn't even exist last week. And then the drums I thought were pretty on point. Like, I see the sounds hitting about where the drumsticks are. The Vision API can't even see the actual drum hitting. It has to infer that from where the wrist is. How it's doing that is just amazing. I don't get it. Look at some of these comments, which throw me, I mean, people just, like, they're not impressed. The guitar playing and drumming are not really accurate at all. I mean, I get that they're not accurate, but the second they are, like, was it supposed to be accurate on the first model that anything like this has ever existed that I know of? I don't know. I feel like this one was so outside the box, people just don't get it. Like, huh? What's going on here? The turkey, video to audio. Oh my gosh, yeah, he gets it. Very crazy indeed. Which came first, the audio or the video? That sentence can be taken two ways. Yeah, that's right. I mean, what if you just throw an audio and it generates video to that? I mean, that model's, someone's probably working on that. I guess these things will become so multimodal, it'll just be incredible. Like, turn this spreadsheet into the coolest movie ever, and I'll be like, okay. Turn this x-ray of my shoulder into an awesome song. Turn my stock portfolio into a 3D model of a Greek statue. Okay, so that technology that Google DeepMind released is called V2A, and it is a video that combines the pixels from the video with a text prompt during training. So that's why V2A can actually generate this like synchronized audio that matches with the visuals. So it is a diffusion model. It's diffusing random noise into audio, but then it's also guided by visual inputs and natural language. So it's Basically taking frames or taking snapshots. It's using the Vision API to see what's on the screen from the video. And then it's also taking that and asking essentially for descriptions in text. So it's looking at both of those things, combining them together, and then generating the sound. So that's why it's kind of got the timing pretty darn close. And I guess this V2A tool also offers a bunch of creative controls with like positive and negative prompts so you can tailor the sound. They say in this official document that despite having some challenges to lip syncing, V2A shows promise in revolutionizing how we bring generated video to life. You know what? And that's one thing I wasn't thinking about when I first was reacting to these, is that I guess it's not about taking footage that just doesn't have audio, because so much video out there just has audio built into it. Except for maybe like old archival things or like the rare video that just wasn't recorded with audio for some reason. But in a future where something like Sora or Google's VO model is generating video, and then it generates the video first, and it's like, how do we populate the sound with this? That's to kind of see and maybe play with the two and then work on them in a multimodal way. All right, look, there is a new model out that from the benchmarks is showing itself to maybe be the best model available in the world right now. And I am talking about probably the #1 rival right now to OpenAI, Anthropic. Their model Claude, which seems like it's kind of off and on again been better than Gemini, but not as good as anything that's coming out of OpenAI, launched a 3.5 version of Claude called Sonnet that is setting way better benchmarks in intelligence, speed, and cost effectiveness. And that means something. And what makes it even more impressive is that you can use it this minute. Claude 3.5 Sonnet is available at claude.ai right now. All right, so this graph nicely describes cost versus intelligence on an XY axis and how Claude 3.5 gives you way more intelligence for less cost than Opus, which was their last model. So not bad, getting smarter and more efficient. And you can see here a new industry benchmark for graduate level reasoning, like we covered in the shocking AGI update, 75, oh my gosh. Claude 3.5 Sonnet operates at twice the speed of Claude 3 Opus. So I guess this is their strongest vision model yet. Let's look at the video. So I'd like you to combine the data from the charts into a single interactive Plotly JavaScript file chart that allows you to hover over each data point and read more about the milestones. Sounds like pretty tricky. Wow. Trailer's just like how to cheat at your life, at your job. Oh my gosh. Claude 3.5 Sonnet does your work for you until you get replaced by it. Today we are introducing artifacts on Claude AI, a new feature that expands how users can interact with Claude. All right, let's see what this is all about. Okay, so when a user asks Claude to generate content like code snippets or text documents or web designs, these artifacts appear in a dedicated window alongside their conversation. Oh, that seems actually kind of cool. This creates a dynamic workspace where they can see, edit, and build upon Claude's creations in real time. Yeah, that's, I mean, as powerful as GPT-4 is and ChatGPT especially, there isn't always the greatest like visual for what it's like coding. Sometimes you like cut and paste it into other tools like Anaconda or something for me to like actually see what it did. This preview feature marks Claude's evolution from conversational AI to collaborative work environments. All right, let's see what this one's about. No way, the game's playable. All right, look, we're just gonna have to recreate this. Is this real? Do we have artifacts? Oh, we do have access to artifacts. I guess let's just play with it. Why not? Okay, wow. Let's try this out. Hey Claude, can you create an 8-bit style bumblebee for me? Gosh. All right, I'm down. While I'm not the most skilled artist, I'll do my best. Okay, buddy. We know you're pretty good. Yeah, it works for me. I couldn't do any better. Now can you make some beehives in the same style? Now let's inline these into a simple side-scrolling game and make it in HTML5. Shut up. Does this work? Oh, it got an error, uncaught error. Let's see if it can fix that just by saying fix it. Can you fix the uncaught error? So interesting how these things work. Oh my gosh, it does work. I just built a game with Claude 3.5 Sonnet in 2 minutes. But I didn't pay attention to how the game worked. Use the up and down arrow keys to move the bumblebee, avoid the beehives. Oh, but bees love beehives. Oh. Look at it go. Avoid the beehives. Avoid the beehives. Okay. The only problem with this game is that bees, especially bumblebees, love beehives. So can you make the game's different and make it so when a bee hits a beehive, they get a point. Not the most clear explanation of what I want, but oh, it already did it. Oh yeah, look, I'm getting points. Wait, where do the points go? What? Is it collecting points? Can you change the color of the score counter to black so I can see it better in the top left? Wow, look at my game. Collect as many beehives as you can, you bee. 10, 11, 12, 14. Yeah, get all those that you can. I can move up and down. I'm a bee. Getting my beehives. Honey for everyone. Honey for me. Here's all the honey I can eat. Wait, although my beehives and my bee don't really look like those 8-bit images. Did it remember those? Can you update the bee to look like that first 8-bit bee that I asked you about at the beginning of this conversation? Oh yeah, there he is. I mean, come on. There's something magical about that. That is crazy. Building games and intelligence is awesome, but what about an AI model that can predict your anxiety? Or at least detect it. So anxiety can be functionally impairing in 12% of the US population. And it's characterized by, and it's interesting, I hadn't ever actually thought about this before, but it is characterized by an intense fear and persistent worry in the absence of a defined threat. Which makes sense, right? Like I feel anxious and I don't know why. But researchers at the University of Cincinnati have developed a new form of artificial intelligence that uses a short picture rating task and a small set of contextual variables to predict whether somebody is experiencing anxiety. So it's using multiple variables here, multiple factors. And the reason they're doing this is that because instead of relying on these extensive databases and supercomputers, this version that they're calling CompCog AI just uses a small set of variables and ratings to gauge anxiety, but because those variables matter so much, it has an 81% accuracy rating. It's the simplicity of the model and the accuracy that make it so appealing. Now the thought is this could be a tool for medical professionals to find out how much anxiety somebody's having before an operation. They think it could be important for military use, obviously who's ready to go into combat and how they're feeling about it. All that other stuff like the CIA and NSA and all those 3-letter acronym companies do. But also maybe companies in the future, maybe like relationship therapists. Like, I don't know. It seems like this anxiety pandemic has a rabbit hole that we need to go down to figure out, like, why is American modern society, which is so safe in so many ways, but I guess with social media and news, if that really is the reason why we have it all, or if there's something else about the way that our culture is, maybe being able to understand who has it and why could give us the kind of data, the hints that we need to find out where it's coming from and if we can actually come to a real solution to it. Okay, so this next article, like warning if you need to, exit or whatever, we're going to be talking about some sex robots. Look, we got to follow AI into all the crevices, the niches, all the places that it's going, okay? And Starpery Technologies is this Chinese company that's making incredible progress in combining artificial intelligence with sex robots. Oh, dude, I don't know if I can do this. There's a moaning function, a heating function, and a clamp and suction function. So there's 5 touch sensors inside of the body. The breast parts, the upper, vagina. So China's AI sex bots with advanced sensors could give human interaction and feel. This generation of dolls powered by AI models and equipped with sensors can react with both movement and speech, significantly enhancing the user experience. So in an attempt to make sex bots more interactive and conversational, a Chinese producer is aiming to integrate advanced AI into the bots. So they'll come in male or female forms, and the sex bot prototypes are expected by August. All right, so the company is stressing that this next generation of dolls powered by AI models will be equipped with sensors that can react to both movement and speech, which in theory should significantly enhance user experience by what they're saying, fostering the emotional connection rather than just the basic conversational abilities that like a chatbot would have. You see, one of the problems with the current dolls is there's a lack of proper capabilities. They might be realistic silicone bodies and metal skeletons, but the current dolls lack proper interactive capabilities to hold communication with humans. That would make sense. Yeah, the dolls don't communicate and talk to you. But imagine this new generation of AI-powered and sensor-equipped dolls can respond to both movement and voice, greatly enhancing user experience. Currently, China is the largest market for sex bots as the country overtook sales of US, Japan, and Germany. So currently their smart voice function is still in the testing phase, but once it passes their internal tests and successfully can be used in production, they will launch it out ASAP. A lot of people are waiting for that. But the company also plans to develop robots capable of performing household tasks, helping people with disabilities, and providing care for the elderly. Two birds, one stone. Why not? By 2025, the company wants to release its first smart service robot. All right, well, there you go. So this new model they're calling the Nematron 4. It is a 340 billion parameter model. So really, really big. This is a very advanced model. I mean, we're talking arguably like in the big boy leagues. And it's got a bunch of variants, so it's a set of models, and they're designed to generate synthetic data for training other large language models. So there's a base model, an instruct model, and a reward model, right? So the thinking is you have one that can like sort of do anything, one that actually makes content for the other things to learn from, one that keeps checking to see if the other models are learning correctly, and kind of like the reinforcement learning side of it, like the here, learn this, and then check to see how well you learned it, make an adjustment, here's some more data. So it's doing multiple things. But with such an advanced model that's just good at evaluating and teaching and learning and evaluating and teaching and learning and evaluating, just in that cycle, maybe future agent models can become superhuman even faster, or without the mistakes of the internet that always kind of maybe slow these things down or make them stupider in a way. But arguably, if there's no real data out there and it's all synthetic data, it might get all kind of weird too. So I've always wondered about that, but maybe a smart enough model would know how to, kind of optimize for that. And to their credit, it's available for free under an open source model. So the Nematron 4 340B can be downloaded from Nvidia's website right now, or even available through their AI microservices. So yeah, it's kind of a game changer for developers. And like this might make it so other industries like retail, healthcare, that don't have the kind of knowledge they need to build these models might be able to start with something blank with their own data sets, and then put this like generation and evaluation models on both sides of it, and just let it go to town and become super smart in a certain way and with a certain expertise. All right, and we're learning more about the human brain also. This is MindMapper. It is MIT's new tech that shows the whole brain hemisphere in 3D detail. All right, so you gotta understand the brain is they're so tiny, those neurons. Like even with microscopes and whatnot, like we have trouble figuring out exactly what's going on in there, because sometimes you can take a snapshot, but to understand the inner workings is just difficult. The brain has over 100 billion neurons and 200 billion cells. It's arguably the most complex system in the universe. Okay, so MIT released this new impressive technology that allows for 3D mapping of the entire brain. This is a massive leap in neuroscience. They have created a technology pipeline that involves 3 groundbreaking innovations. The first one they're calling Megatomb, and it's for slicing brain hemispheres without damaging them too much. The next one is called M-elastase, and it makes the brain slices clear and understandable. And then there's Unslice, which is for reconstructing 3D images from these slices. So that's where the AI comes in. Like this is the whole pipeline is all about like preserving the brain, slicing it up, seeing it from different details, and then actually putting that all back together using AI. And so far the tech was used to study brains that were donated after people's deaths. One actually had Alzheimer's, and it allowed them to get the most detailed imaging ever about what a brain with Alzheimer's looks like, which could give us some really important clues down the road into what causes it. And I'm talking all the way down to even the subcellular structures. Wow, that is actually really interesting to see how the human brain looks like when you keep zooming in like that. All right, so something I hadn't thought about until I came across this article is how in a lot of the generative photos and videos that I look at, people are smiling. But guess what? They're Americans, and I live in America, and I forgot how our smile isn't necessarily part of the culture in every country. And it really is worth thinking about how AI is actually misrepresenting culture through facial expressions. So a Medium author who goes by the name Jen Ka wrote a piece called AI in the American Smile, how AI misrepresents culture through facial expressions. And it did kind of crack me up, like when I saw this generated picture of like one of the, like all of those old Indian photos where they weren't smiling because that just wasn't normal. I mean, obviously you could ask the model, don't make people smile, but there is a tendency from the data set that it was trained on to just be biased to some cultures and not other cultures. And it's especially prominent when you generate images like this, like historical wars taking selfies with like these big, super cheesy grins. That's out of place historically. And when you look at photos like that, you should be trying to capture something of history, or you should be like in a place where you're doing something creative. You don't want it to come out in between without somebody really knowing what they're getting, you know? I mean, I guess arguably you could, but there's just something lost, I guess is the point. So the article goes into more detail about the differences in cultural smiling, right? It points out that Americans often smile in photos due to our cultural norms. But other cultures, like especially Russia, they might see a smile as dishonest or unintelligent. Most of the AI systems are trained predominantly on American-influenced datasets, so they end up applying these cultural biases universally. You don't want some Russians trying to generate, like, you know, images of themselves in fun situations being like, why do I keep smiling like I'm unintelligent? But those AI-generated smiles really do make that like kind of feel out of place. Smiling samurai warriors, I don't know if they would have ever gathered for a photo like that. French World War II soldiers say cheese? No, that has to have been hell they were going through. An AI generated image of an Egyptian warrior selfie? Nah. Ancient African warriors? Aztec warriors? Spanish conquistadors? No. These people were all ruthless fighters. No. Wrong place to be smiling. All right, Grimlock, are you ready to transform into research time? Transform!
It's extinction time.
No, it's research time. All right, next up, we're going to go up to the sky and look at some satellite imagery and talk about scene graph generation in large size VHR satellite imagery. All right, so we're talking about these huge high resolution photos of Earth, right? All the stuff that's taken from satellites. And this paper is about improving what's called scene graph generation, which basically means detecting objects and their relationships in super detailed satellite images. So they introduced a massive data set called RSG, and it has over 210,000 objects in various locations that could be seen globally. And then to handle the complexity of these images and all the objects in them, they produced a new framework that's called CAC. And that's a framework that includes this multi-class object detection network, which they're calling HOD-net, for spotting objects, and then a pair of proposed generation network models, which identify important object pairs and their relationships in the environments that they sit inside and their relationship to the prediction network, the RPCM. Really complicated data. This is the entire planet trying to be stitched together from space with object detection inside of it. It's a huge project. And their experiments show, and this framework shows, that their methods can significantly outperform the existing ones. And this is a big step forward to understanding and analyzing satellite images and knowing more about how the whole planet as a whole is, you know, put together. So actually, in the article too, I just wanted to point out this distribution was kind of interesting to me. So if you look at satellite images, the most common object that it can find is cars, which is not that surprising, I guess. But then it comes across airports a lot, and then tanks, boats, taxiways, ships. Like, I didn't really think tank was going to be like above boat, but whatever. It finds a lot of cranes, car parking places to park cars, trucks, docks, windmills, terminals. Like, it's interesting to see proportionally like how much stuff we've built on Earth and in what proportions. And then way down here, you see a bunch of stuff that it doesn't see very frequently, like stadiums and toll gates, flood dams, coal yards. I don't know, just kind of an interesting chart. So when I was talking about those relationships, this is kind of an example. There's a ship away from a dock. There's a truck away from a toll gate, a ship approaching a dock, and then a truck approaching a tollway. So there's also that relationship status of how things are changing in the world, which can give key insights into like what's coming, or if it's from like a weather point of view, or you're trying to organize all the oil tankers so they don't like get clogged in some dock or something. Jan LeCun, head AI guy over at Facebook, has come up with a new benchmark to measure all large language models by. Now maybe it's a little bit biased towards Llama, we don't know, but you know, supposedly it's got a bunch of NYU, USC, and Nvidia people on the paper too. So okay, you know, it's not just Jan LeCun, but he's in there. All right, so supposedly this benchmark should be without the usual set of contamination and bias from human or LLM judges that affect most of the other measurements. And they made this LiveBench measurement super tough using fresh questions that are updated monthly from math competitions, archive papers, news, and more. So they span categories like math, coding, reasoning, language, instruction following, and data analysts to give like a more well-rounded understanding of how well a model is approaching AGI, artificial general intelligence. But the idea is generally to just keep the models on their toes, to give fair objective statements, to use ground truth answers instead of subjective judging for all questions. And as of right now, the best models that have been tested on these new questions score below 65%. So they also show how challenging it is, which is good, because like if a model is like scoring 95%, then what about the superhuman models that are coming down the road in a few years? Like they're all just going to be 100, 110%, 120. Like that doesn't make sense. Oh my gosh. Actually, I'm sorry. Looking at the paper, LiveBench did test Claude 3.5 Sonnet, and it is above GPT-4o. Wow, I guess maybe they had access to 3.5 Sonnet before we did, huh? Look at that. LiveBench results from the top 15 performing models. There's Claude versus GPT-4o. Now their LiveBench score is quite a bit better too, going all the way from 53 to a jump of 62.2. Wow. Next paper is called Subobjective Level Image Tokenization. Okay, so I'll give you a quick rundown. The key points from this paper are really about how an AI system that's watching a video would look for things versus this new way of just capturing the content and thinking about what patterns there are in it. Basically, the traditional vision systems that are out there looking at photos or videos, they're breaking the screen into all these little patches. Like those are the tokens. Fixed size patches, and things happen on them that become patterns in the large data sets, and they do amazing things. I mean, you can see how far they took that with Sora, but in some ways it's not the greatest way to capture the true essence of what's happening on the screen. But these authors were inspired by how language models actually tokenize text into more meaningful chunks, because the tokens that are inside of language models tend to be words. They're sometimes they're word fragments, but the word like king and queen or cat and dog, they have relative relationships to each other that make sense to us. Like cat and dogs are closer to each other. King, queen, man, woman have like relationships to each other. But the way video was digested into these systems wasn't so clean. It was just kind of patches, and it still works. But imagine if large language models worked on just random chunks of text. But it would be even less meaningful to us in any sense that was comprehensible. So these authors are suggesting that we take videos and images and first break them into these sub-object segments, right? Because those are semantically more meaningful. They're closer to the equivalent of words. Like we're actually talking about the objects in the videos. So then a video that has king, queen, man, woman in it, actually those become objects, and then they get put into the space the same way the word models are. And when they did this, it both sped up the learning process and it also improved the accuracy of describing images. And the code that was in this paper is open source, so anybody can build on top of it. I find this really interesting because it's not like every token fragment is the same length. So it's interesting in comparison when you think about a token from an image being like an exact, 100 by 100 pixel square, but not actually variable based on whatever it is in the real world to us, that it works so well and that they kind of merge together so well. So I just like it. I think there's more explainability, just in the interest of making these things more explainable so we understand what's going on inside of them. I think this could be a step forward. It'd be nice, even if models computationally haven't been built that way and it might take some effort to move over to them, maybe we'll be able to understand better what it is that the relationship it's discovering between all of these things in images and videos are. I don't know if you have any insights. I'm starting to hit a couple videos with not quite as many views as I used to. It feels like that upswing is sort of leveled out or maybe even dipped a little bit. I mean, clearly the click-through rate wasn't great on this one. I don't know why. Maybe that robot didn't really come off the right way. Maybe something about my launch timing. Maybe there was a bunch of other AI news somebody was into. But yeah, the watch duration wasn't too bad. Even the retention was pretty good. So I mean, the people who liked it liked watching it more than average. So why didn't YouTube give it more impressions or at least the same amount? I don't know. It can be frustrating when you think you've made a video that looks good, and even the analytics are essentially saying it's a good video based on just how much people watched it compared to my other videos, but it doesn't get pushed out to as many people. I mean, you know what? Actually, honestly, I probably know. It's probably the click-through rate. There was something about that thumbnail. I mean, the point of this video was like robot gymnastics, but maybe just the robot being on the running field didn't really work right. And then you'd think the autonomous excavator would be awesome, but I don't know. Somehow that when I first saw that, it was like so intimidating. Like people are definitely going to click on this, but maybe once it kind of got added to the actual like farmland or something, it just didn't hit the same way. But there were a lot of great comments, so I'm going to pick my 3 favorites to turn into a song. Okay, we'll start by anybody who gets a super chat is going in for sure. Make shorter videos, I don't know, just a random thought. All right, listen, you gave the super chat, I'm down. No, I like long, I prefer longer. Yeah, it's very debatable. Yeah, I probably won't be doing shorter, but I do appreciate you sharing your thoughts. Yeah, for the record, I have actually experimented with shorts, and I think right now I'm having more luck, and I don't want to mess with the algorithm with longer form. In fact, you know, this channel's fairly old. Like a year ago, I was uploading for a long time every single day. I did lots and lots of short form stuff, and I think that might have actually hurt. And you brought in maybe some subscribers that weren't really in it for the long form. Dylan, bro, we have Claude 3.5 now. Yas, you're going in. Oh, I have a new goal. Jailbreak LLMs via whale speak. That was one of my other favorite ones. Miss Paradoxical, love it. Because you could do jailbreaks via voice that even if they were written in text wouldn't work. So it was an interesting article. You think gossipable or psychedelic? Let's go psychedelic. Psychedelic D will be good.
Maybe shorter videos. I don't know. Just a random thought. Bro, we have Claude 3.5 now, yes. I have a new goal. Jailbreak alarms, V2A speak.
All right, we'll see you guys in the next video. Subscribe.